Today we have our very first mock draft of the season. Make sure you stick around to the end because this mock draft will be done as I think it might go down today. However, I know that this draft will not be like this in 3 months whenever the draft comes around. So the point of this is to compare it when we're close to draft time, see how the boards line up from here to there, and either way, let's get right into this video. But first, make sure you go ahead and check out W.GG. This is an energy drink that they have a bunch of different flavors on their website, W.GG. And you can use code SHREDDER to get 10% off whatever you order. Their energy drinks, the bottles, the merch, whatever you want. Go order and use code SHREDDER for 10% off. Let's get into this video. Let's get right into this draft. As I said, no trades here. Nothing is going to be traded because we don't know what's going to happen. There are so many things that will change, and this one, we might do a review right before the draft happens, going back to this video and seeing whether or not how close this becomes. And like, for example, Jaden Daniels, could he fall out of the top 10 later on in the year? Maybe so. We don't know. Crazy things will happen. Let's get going. Number 1, Chicago Bears starting on the clock. To me, here's the thing. Let me move this out of the way. Here's the thing with Chicago. Justin Fields has not proven anything in 3 years. Whatever you want to say, he hasn't. He has not proven anything. Other than that, he's not a super competent quarterback. Guys like Josh Allen improved in the offseason when they got their quarterback coaches to learn new mechanics, new footwork. Justin Fields, terrible mechanics, terrible footwork. He doesn't have that on right now. You've got to have a different spot for those things as your quarterback, and he's got to fix that himself. That's not on an OC. That's not on weapons. Yes, the OC, the weapons, they're not the best in the world, but not everybody has that. So they're going to go Caleb Williams. Long story short. Short story long, maybe. Caleb Williams, we're facing too much prospect fatigue right now. People think, oh, he's not going to be number 1 or what. Yes, he will be. He is a generational talent. Now, whether he lives up to that talent will be the question. Going on, Washington, and I'm going to go ahead and say, either one of these teams, we're not doing trades, but either of these teams could definitely move up. Or move down. Move down. Do they do that? I don't think so. In this mock draft, I am going to go with the opposite of what I said earlier, and I'm going to have Jaden Daniels going to Washington at number 2. That leaves a pretty much no-brainer for the Patriots to go get Drake May. This is a projection that I have. Don't know if it'll be true or not, but Jaden Daniels, I think he ends up, Washington goes with him over Drake May. Kind of switch up what they've had. They had Kirk Cousins for a little bit, and then they went to a turnstile of quarterbacks, Jacoby Brissett. They went to Sam Howell last year. A lot of, pocket passers and guys, or a modern pocket passer, a guy who throws the ball primarily but gets out of it. Drake May is that. Jaden Daniels is not that. Jaden Daniels is the running guy. He's got weapons there. I think they try to make it work with Jaden Daniels. Moving to the Patriots, they get Drake May, and it's not a question. I think if he's there at 3, he's their guy. He fits New England to me. He looks like he belongs in a Pats uniform. That's what it is. I think Marvin Harrison goes 4 to the Arizona Cardinals, and I don't think there's any ifs, ands, or buts about it. They need help in the entirety of the roster. So why not go get the best player available? That is Marvin Harrison Jr. The Chargers are in a very interesting spot here. They could 100% move down in this draft. I would not be shocked at all if they moved down because they need a lot of things too. They need a running back. They need a receiver. Because they might cut Mike Williams apparently. They need a tight end. They need some D linemen. They need some linebackers. They need secondary help. They need pretty much everything that's not a quarterback, not a left tackle, and not a number 1 edge rusher, and not a number 1 safety. That's pretty much all they have. So, do they get Joe Alt? That's a good idea. It would definitely not be a bad idea. Do they get a Malik Neighbors, a Roma Dunze, a Brock Bowers? None of those are necessarily bad ideas either. I think they will trade down at this point in time. This is the February 22nd, but I just don't know what we're going to really see with them. I'm going to stick and pick here, and I'm going to go with they go and get some legit help in the receiver room with Malik Neighbors. The Giants at number 6. This is an interesting one as well. They could go a lot of directions here too. They could go quarterback. I think top 3 off the board. I think this is a spot where they don't go that because the other guys aren't really worth the 6th overall pick at this point. Offensive line could definitely help. Andrew Thomas has been a good tackle. Evan Neal, not so much, but I think you got to give Evan Neal some time. I think DB is definitely in play here. And right now, Terrion Arnold is probably the hottest name in that position group, so we're going to give them Terrion Arnold. Then we go to the Titans. I think Brock Bowers said he wants to play for the Titans. That's awesome, but do they need a tight end? Chig Okonkwo is not that great, but a tight end just isn't that valuable. Kyle Pitts was drafted at 4, and he's not been utilized correctly. Yes, that's partially on the team, but he's also not exactly a tight end. That guy is more of a big wide receiver. It's a weird spot. I think they go Joe Alt. I think it makes too much sense to not. The Falcons, once again, a quarterback spot. I think this team is the team that lands with Justin Fields. Not that I think he'll do much, but he's something over nothing. I think you go with either edge rusher or a wide receiver because the edge unit here is not the greatest. And then the wide receiver room, you got to help Justin Fields as much as you can in the time that you have him. I think they do go that direction. I think they go and get Rome Odunze, the best guy on the board. Now we're back at Chicago. They took Caleb first overall. They have a solid number 1 receiver. They could use a number 2 receiver. Brian Thomas, Troy Franklin. There are guys on the board. Brock Bowers, not so much. They have Cole Kmet, who's a solid tight end. Corner, maybe not a bad idea. You might lose Jalen Johnson. Olu Fashanu, get a good tackle. Replace Braxton Jones. Darnell Wright, he's played 1 year. You don't want to replace him yet, but he wasn't that great in year 1. Byron Murphy, there's a lot of things you can do here. To me, however, you need a running mate. The edge position is so important on the defense. That is probably the most important spot on the defense in the modern NFL. I think you go and get Dallas Turner with the roster that you've had so far. If not, you maybe grab maybe a Brian Thomas. However, if Rome Odunze is on the board, then I think it's him. But with the lack of receiver, high upside guys, I think Dallas Turner is the way to go right now. The Jets are elated of what has happened here. Olu Fashanu is quickly their pick. He was mocked to them last year before he decided to not go out of last year's draft. They need a tackle more than anything at all. They need to replace Mekhi Becton. They need to, figure out the other side as well. Their tackles are in a bad spot. Olu Fashanu is one of the better players in this class overall. Easy plug-and-play starter on day 1. Going to Minnesota. This is where things can take a turn. They could go corner. They could go defensive interior. They could go edge rusher. They could go center. They could go... There's not a whole lot they couldn't go. I'd say not a receiver. They could go quarterback if they don't think they're going to get Cousins back, or if they don't get Cousins back, J.J. McCarthy, Bo Nix. I think both guys are in play here. However, I think you wait on those positions. I think the secondary has been a big issue. Is there a guy here you think can do that? Cooper DeJean. I think he's going to be very, very, very good. To me, he is probably the best corner in this class. However, his injury might tank his stock. Depending on how he does at the combine, he could rise way back up, and he could be taken where Terrion Arnold was, easily. I'm going to leave him off for now because at the moment, I feel like he is going to fall. I'm kind of basing this off of today. That way, when we get to the draft day, the day before, 2 days before, I can, look at this and compare it to the modern, what it looks like at that time. Jared Verse would be a great option. If they're going to lose Danielle Hunter, he's probably the best defensive player on the board. But if you really want to stick with that secondary, as that is kind of an issue, if you think you can bring back Danielle Hunter, I think you go Quinion Mitchell here. A guy, he kind of is on that Devin Witherspoon, trace right now, where Witherspoon ended the year, not super ton of hype, then did really, really good at the Senior Bowl, shot up, did really, really good at the Combine, shot up more, and just graded out well, tested out well. Everything turned out well. That could be Quinion Mitchell this year. We will see. Definitely a spot here. They could go Byron Murphy, Jerzon Newton. They could go even, there's a lot of things they could do here. I think right now it's somebody in the secondary. Whether or not it's Quinion Mitchell, it's a secondary member. Denver, to me, Russ is gone one way or another. This is a quick one. J.J. McCarthy, I think he is the next best quarterback after these three, and I think that will be proven throughout the draft process. J.J. McCarthy's a guy that I think he could be a guy people trade up for. The Raiders, the Broncos, the Vikings, if they feel like they need to. This range right here could all be trade-up territory for J.J. McCarthy if he does grade out well, as I think he will. The Raiders are now on the clock, and this one is a tough one as well. They could definitely use a quarterback, but do they really go Bo Nix? Maybe they're a Russ location. Maybe they go get, Ryan Tannehill or somebody to start for a season. Maybe they find a guy late in the draft like they did last year with Aiden O'Connell because they just didn't land in a good spot. However, to me, you've got to do something here. You've got to find somebody somewhere, do something, and Bo Nix is what's available. That's what you got to do. You got to do what you got to do, and that's what you got to do. The Saints. This is a weird spot. They're in a really bad spot as a franchise. No money. There's no good situation from this. You have a lot to figure out right now. You start out, quarterback. Is Derek Carr your answer? Long term, no. Right now, there's no other option. Tackle. Talise Fuaga's here. That's a good option. Latham's here. It's a good option. Receiver. You only really have Chris Olave in that room. Is that really great? No. Brock Bowers, to me, that's a good option here because if you want to try to help Derek Carr as much as possible, get him a good tight end. Olave's a good receiver. Jawan Johnson is a solid tight end 2, but he's not a 1. I think that's where they go here. I think Brock Bowers, his fall ends here. A tight end just isn't that valuable, but the Saints just have to find something to do, and a tight end's where they have to go. The Colts, I think they're upset that Brock Bowers is off the board here, but, there's things to work with. To me, there are, you could use an edge rusher. Leatu Latu stands out. Byron Murphy could be a good addition. Defensive back, you might be losing a guy like, what's his name? I'm just blanking. Kenny Moore. A lot of things can change here, but I think Nate Wiggins is the guy off the board here. Cooper DeJean, just the injury is going to make him fall, though he will test out well, I think, in the long run. But that's just a projection. Right now, I don't think he sits that high. Seattle Seahawks, guard, center, edge. And, to me, their edge room is really bad. Jared Verse has somehow gotten this far. Honestly, that's probably a great mistake I've made. I don't know. You could argue so many guys. Him at 16 is almost ridiculous. I mean, I don't think he falls out of the top 15. He's just ended up here based on this. He could be a Colt. He could be a Saint. He could, not so much a Raider. He could be a Bronco if they don't go quarterback. He could be a Viking. He could be potentially if Dallas Turner's off the board or if they like him more. He could be anywhere. This is his floor. This is very much Jared Verse's floor. The Jaguars now on the clock. This is a tough one. Jackson Powers-Johnson has been mocked in the first round, but centers just aren't that valuable. I don't think he's going to stay there. I think other guys will climb up. You have every guy right here is probably a guy you take before him just because of positional value. Center's not that. Tackles are going to go first. They could potentially use a tackle. A Talise Fuaga, Troy Fatanu, guys with some, positional flexibility potentially. But I think this is a spot where they could go edge as well. This is a spot where they might be losing Josh Allen. There's a lot of things that could go wrong here. But at the same time, Trevor Lawrence is on a clock here. Trevor Lawrence this is his 4th year. And his second year was really, really good. The first and third years, not so much. I think you need to get him a weapon. Brian Thomas is the best one on the board, and that's what you go do. The Bengals, tight end, tackle, defensive interior is what they say. Defensive interior is definitely a need. I just don't know if these defensive tackles are good enough. Secondary is also a low-key need that they have. Tackle is a big one, and that's where I think they go. It doesn't really matter which one at this point. I'm going to go with J.C. Latham. I like him next as the next Bengals left tackle or right tackle, whichever one they want him at. Here, the Rams, once again, they are another roster that there's a lot of holes here. There is a lot of things they could use. I think edge rusher is a big one. Leatu Latu looks pretty appetizing right now. Not so much the interior to me. Tackle is one they could definitely use. That's just, I don't know. There is a lot here. Kool-Aid McKinstry, receiver help. I mean, they don't need it as bad, but corners are definitely an option. I think I'm going to go. Oh, that's so tough, man. Is anybody slipping down this board? Not really. Although I will say, where is he at? Darius Robinson is a guy who could definitely rise up draft boards and end up as a first-round pick. However, I think they go edge rusher, Leatu Latu. There is just a need for edge. It is an important position in the NFL today, and that's where they go. It's just the best one they can get. It's the best way to do it. No, there's just, it just is what it is. Pittsburgh lands here with a good option between, they have the center on the board that they would want. They have a corner that is potentially good. 2 corners, Kool-Aid or Cooper DeJean. Linebacker, not really a linebacker in the first round this year. Maybe they go receiver help, but I just don't think so. It just is what it is. There's a lot of things here. I think Cooper DeJean's the bigger need. You can find a center elsewhere. You can find a center later in the draft. High-end upside here. There is some risk. That's why he fell. It is what it is. The Dolphins. Jackson Powers Johnson, though I don't think he will be a first-round pick, this is about the only team I think could legitimately take him, because if they lose Connor Williams, that's a big issue. McDaniels likes that zone run scheme, and that's a big part. The center is a big deal here. The interior, they're going to lose both of their guards and center more than likely this year. In Isaiah Wynn and in, who else is the other one? Robert Hunt. They got to fill out some of those holes. Powers Johnson, that's the only reason I think he could go in the first round right now. Tight end is not valuable enough right now to go take that. They could use a tackle as well. The tackle position is not in the best spot for them. Teron Armstead is potentially, older, just not there. I'm going to go Talise Fuaga here. He's the best offensive lineman on the board. They can move him to guard if they need to. Tackle is also available. The Eagles. To me, this is straight up a secondary pick. Who is the best secondary player here? We'll check on corners. We'll check on safeties. We'll get both of them in here. To me, there's not a safety here. I mean, Cameron Kinchins is my number one safety. I think he potentially goes as a back-end first-rounder, but I think that's no higher than maybe 29. To me, it's between these two right here, really. Maybe Kamari Lassiter as well. I think those three are options. Kool-Aid McKinstry is definitely the highest upside, though. Keep him in the building, or keep Kool-Aid as your number one guy. Don't overthink it. Just take him. The Texans, they have not had a pick yet, I don't believe. And, they need some things here and there as well. That team is not as talented as many other teams, but they made it work, and that's awesome. They overachieved, and that's great. Who do they need? I think this is where defensive interior starts to play a factor. I think Jerzon Newton does go here. He's the best one in my opinion, and it's just a quality position and need for them. Plus, D'Amico Ryans will probably take some definite defensive help and probably get some, the Texans could be a Saquon Barkley, a Josh Jacobs landing spot. Maybe even a T. Higgins, maybe a Mike Evans spot, depending on if they want to play with C.J. Stroud. The Cowboys here. Secondary is also a need. Center could be a need, but I don't think it's that serious there. Byron Murphy could be a good pick for them. There's a lot here, but also not a lot. I don't know. I feel like they're not in a good spot for what they need this season in the draft. They could go another receiver, but I just don't think it's super worthwhile. I don't want to go back-to-back defensive linemen. I don't think it's going to happen. They have good tackles right now. However, Smith is a free agent. That could be a big hole for them. Amarius Mims is a right tackle. We're not going to go there. Fatanu could play that left side. Tyler Guyton's a good left side. I don't know, man. This is a really tough one. They're not in a good spot. This is a trade-down spot for sure. I have to go Byron Murphy. He makes the most sense right now, but it is what it is. On the clock is Green Bay. They need secondary help. Front seven's fine. They need some offensive talent. The running back position is not valuable enough in this draft class to take. They need some line help. We're going to go line here. One way or another, I think Troy Fatanu has fallen far enough. He goes off the board quickly to Green Bay on the board still. The Buccaneers, they got a lot of things to fill out themselves. I think they go receiver, especially if they can't get Mike Evans back. That would leave a rather large hole. Adonai Mitchell, I like him a lot. I think he probably is my top receiver on the board here. Troy Franklin is solid. Yeah, Adonai Mitchell is my number one on the board. But can they go elsewhere? They are losing some linemen this year. Powers Johnson, now that I'm seeing this, he could sneak in here, but it's because of the lack of centers on these teams. It's not so much because of the positional value. But I don't think I'm going to go that way still. I think CB could be a good spot. Maybe Ennis Rakestraw. That's definitely in range here. I think we go Ennis Rakestraw here. I didn't mean to click on that. I think that makes the most sense here. I think they could use that secondary help. They can fill out receiver elsewhere. The Cardinals, they did have the pick earlier. They took Marvin Harrison Jr. No surprise there. Now, to me, you got to go defense here. Best player available, unless there's just something that sticks out. And I don't think there is. TJ Tampa is a good option. Chop Robinson, Darius Robinson. This could be a Darius Robinson spot if he does rise up the boards. Chris Braswell, didn't see him, and that's where we're going. I just grazed right over him. Chris Braswell, definitely the next best edge on the board. I think if he's there, that is a pretty solid pick without a thought about it. The Bills, they are very lucky that the receiver room is played out like it has. Adonai Mitchell, to me, is a quick grab for them. I just think they need receiver help bad. Josh Allen can only do so much on his own. The Lions now, they're looking at one position and one position only, and well, two positions and two positions only. That is cornerback and safety. To me, the best one on the board is Kamari Lassiter. TJ Tampa is a close second. Cam Kinchens is after that. However, I got to go Kamari Lassiter. He just makes the most sense. They need that corner. They need the talent in that position room for sure. Ravens. That's a tough one. Lad McConkey would be a very Raven-like pick, but he's just a slot receiver. He's really fast. He's got a lot of talent, but being a slot is just a little bit underwhelming. No reason to go get Troy Franklin when your quarterback can't throw outside the numbers. This is tough. They really could go get a Darius Robinson here. I think that's what they're going to do. I think he rises up the boards enough to get there. Darius Robinson goes in the first round, just sneaks in. This Niners pick right here, Trent Williams on the way out here shortly. I mean, he's a good player, but he's getting older and only older. McKivitz didn't do too great. The guards weren't great. I think Graham Barton here makes every bit of sense. He just looks like a Niner when you look at him. And also, he can play anywhere on that line. Literally center, guard, tackle, anywhere you need. They need, a mix of things right now. They might need a guard this year. They might need a tackle next year. Move him wherever you need him. Graham Barton to the San Francisco 49ers. And the Chiefs, I think this is a pretty easy position group to pick from. You go either Keon Coleman, if he still stays around here, he might fall. Xavier Worthy is an option. Troy Franklin. To me, that is potentially Tyreek Hill 2.0 with potential. He's not going to be as good as Tyreek Hill, let's be real. But you might get something in that range. It's just, you might have something there. The speed, Mahomes' arm, the talent. Get a receiver, get a talented one. Troy Franklin is that guy on the board. So, here is our draft number 1. Let me know what you guys think of this draft in the comments down below. Let me know who you think your favorite team will take. And, maybe a team who, give me your best trade-up team. So, not who they're going to trade up for, but, do you think the Raiders trade up to get a quarterback and they trade all the way up to 3 or 2? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll see you on the next video.